Hello, hello. Goodness me. My heart's pounding out of my chest. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Winston. So January 4th, 2017, I returned home from work with the worst anxiety I've ever felt. I tell my husband, Darren, I can never go back. I'm never going back to that place. My anxiety had reached my ultimate high. The crushing sensation on my chest and the knots, sickness in my stomach. I couldn't go on like this anymore. This is where my healing began. For a moment, I want to take you back. Throughout the majority of my life, I didn't understand what anxiety was. I lived my life with just enough anxiety that I could manage and was only debilitated under extreme pressure. For example, in the 9th grade, I got the lead in a play at school, and I would throw up every morning before I had to perform. I was intimately familiar and truly believed that the tightness in my chest, jittery nerves, and short temper were all just a part of my personality. I just wasn't a calm person. I have a history of working for companies that had the culture of overwork, underpaid, little concern for mental health and work-life balance. I gave my everything to these companies, and when I say everything, I mean everything. I was a superhero, or so I thought. At the end of most days, I was grumpy, short-tempered, exhausted, and instead of tuning in and trusting the signs that my body was giving me, I kept pushing, filling up my schedule on days off and in the evenings. My husband got the absolute worst version of me. I was completely killing it at work and simultaneously, literally and metaphorically killing myself, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. I was lost and I couldn't see a way out. The deep knowing that my life was no longer working was more than apparent. I had been attempting to make course corrections to try to make myself feel better, like going from an outside sales position, traveling, working 16-hour days, available 24/7, attached to my cell phone like it was a safety device, to a Monday to Friday inside sales job, close to home, making way less money, with apparently less stress. My focus was on getting pregnant. I was planning the best route to get pregnant and go on maternity leave. Darren and I's journey to becoming parents is similar to many's and unique in that we had had 5 years of unexplained infertility before my gynecologist blew the whistle and said we had to go for fertility testing. Up until that point, I believed it would happen when it was meant to happen. And I would sit on the toilet crying each month when my period would arrive, marking the loss of another month attempting conception. In the summer of 2016, we began fertility treatment. 18 eggs were retrieved, 7 embryos survived, and 1 embryo was implanted. With a blocked tube and less than 5% chance of us getting pregnant naturally, I was pregnant at our first attempt at IVF and in vitro fertilization. We were over the moon with excitement. We were becoming parents. We are parents. Our family and friends that had been with us on this journey were ecstatic for us. And we could not wait to meet this little being that was growing inside of me. We followed the growth tracking app. Every Thursday morning, we would lay in bed together before work and read through the growth update for that week. We talked to Babe, read to him, and bonded with this growing child inside of me. On December 7th of 2016, my husband took me to emergency. I was in excruciating pain. I couldn't sit or lay down. All I could do was pace and focus on breathing. I was 18 weeks pregnant, and instinctively, I knew that something was wrong. The ER doctor tells us that my membranes are bulging. This means that my cervix is fully open and that the sac that the baby is inside is literally pushing out of my body. The pain, it was unexplainable. She did an ultrasound, and babe is doing well. Looks healthy, strong heartbeat, moving about. I asked the ER doctor if there's anything that we can do to stop it. She looks at me devastated, and she says, no, it's too early. If you were 20 weeks, there are measures we can take, but it's just too early. And then my water breaks. On December 8th of 2016 at 1:15 a.m., I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. He was stillborn. At 18 weeks gestation, he was not developed or strong enough to endure the birthing process. He was beautiful and perfect, and much to our surprise, a fully developed human being. See-through skin, his foot the size of my thumbprint, and a very prominent upper lip, just like his daddy's. He was perfect. We named him Deacon. Deacon made me a mom, and Deacon changed my life forever. To say that I was crushed, devastated even, would be the understatement of the century. Everything I knew to be true had been shattered into unrecognizable pieces. I had been shattered into unrecognizable pieces, and I had no idea how or if they would go back together again. The month of December was foggy. I fumbled my way through my milk coming in, breasts hard as rocks. Seeing all our family and friends over the holidays was excruciating. And the only thing that got me through it was never being alone. By the end of the month, there were some clear expectations being felt that I should be going back to work in January. The words "I'm sorry" made me cringe, and I certainly did not trust myself enough to decide what I needed. And going back to work in the new year was what work expected of me, what our families expected of me. Get back to work and you'll feel better. Just getting back to it, it will be good. All I heard was go back. I was so deeply concerned what people thought of me, terrified that I would disappoint someone. I felt like I was disappointing our families by being broken, letting down my coworkers, my friends. I had always been the strong one, and now that I was falling apart, or already in pieces, it became acutely obvious to me that some people really struggled to be with me. Some people couldn't look me in the eye. Some people never called. And some people had no words, they just cried. I felt like I had the plague, and that I needed to do all I could to calm the storms that were going on around me, instead of focusing on calming the storm that was going on inside of me. And the storm inside of me was growing strong, collecting all of my past traumas and forming the greatest tornado of emotional trauma that I had ever experienced. I was not only feeling and mourning the loss of our son, I was reprocessing all of the traumas of my past that had led me here. Let me take you to the eye of the storm. I was raped at age 17, which was the catalyst to a string of unhealthy relationships, and then a few years of promiscuity, which led to contracting a sexually transmitted infection, which then in turn led to damaging my fallopian tubes. My conclusion after losing Deacon was that this was all my fault. I created this reality somehow, and if I had just controlled my behavior over a decade ago, I would not be here. I would be blissfully pregnant still. I hit my rock bottom on January 4th of 2017 when I realized I could not go back to work, had no idea what I would do, and something had to change. I started listening to my feelings and the voice in my head saying, "You can't keep doing this. How much worse does it need to get? What more needs to happen for you to make a change?" The weight of the world on my chest, carrying what I perceived was everyone's disappointment, including my own. It became clear that the crushing of my heart and soul was worse than the disappointment and the letting down of others. That for the first time in my life, no matter how insane I looked or felt, I had to start trusting what I needed, and I needed space and time. I had no idea what that meant or how it would look. If we can tap into our inner knowing, our gut, our intuition, whatever you can connect with, it knows what you need. You know what you need. And then dig deep, and I mean really deep, to muster as much courage as you can, because taking a stand for yourself against social and societal expectations and norms takes a shit ton of courage. My healing journey began on January 4th, 2017, when I mustered up the courage to tap out of the social and societal responsibilities and expectations of life and began trusting my gut. I first made an appointment with my counselor, Dr. P, and she recommended that I also see my family doctor every 2 weeks. In between these touchstone check-ins, I would journal, cry, sleep, rest, visit with friends or a family member, or I would go to nature, walk, touch a tree, sit by the water, reconnect with myself, the world around me, and gave myself full permission to feel anything and everything that was coming up for me. The more complicated emotions were processed and facilitated in counseling. I was grieving more than just the loss of Deacon. I was grieving the loss of my innocence, the idea that I may never become a mother, and whether I would be a good mother if I was fortunate enough to get there. I was grieving my past traumas and choices, all of the shame, guilt, blame, fear, and sadness was bubbling to the surface. And for the first time, I was allowing it, not choking back the tears when they came, but wailing them out, not dismissing the rise of fear, angst, anger, but allowing them to flow, whether through my pen to paper, out my mouth in words, out of my body through tears, wailing and crying, in full surrender to processing. It was ugly, exhausting. Sounds came out of my body that I had never heard before. And I let it all come, be seen, felt, and acknowledged. It was my willingness and courage to feel through all of my emotions and heal the pain of my past traumas and losing Deacon that I was able to find peace and freedom. On the road to recovery, Dr. P asked me, "How do you want to show up in the world?" For so long, I had been on the journey of becoming a mom. This was the be-all and end-all of my existence. I wanted to be a mom more than anything, and would worry about my purpose and my passions when I was on mat leave. I would go back to school maybe, or at least figure out what I wanted to do or be, but I would worry about it then. Dr. P said, "I want you to make a plan. Figure out who you want to show up as in the world. Who do you want to be besides being a mom?" Without much deliberation, I told her that I wanted to help people. I wanted to help women find their way through their tornado of life and facilitate them putting their pieces back together. I wanted to be a counselor. I went home that day and I researched programs, found a 1-year diploma program through the Vancouver College of Counselor Training, and graduated with my diploma in professional counseling with a specialization in sexual abuse counseling. Losing Deacon was the worst and best experience of my life. Losing Deacon took me to a depths of grief, shame, guilt, and pain that I never could have fathomed, which gave me the vastness to experience pride, excitement, joy, and love beyond belief. He is the catalyst for deepening the love, respect, and strength of our marriage and commitment to one another. He is the catalyst to me striving for my dreams, to make a difference in the world, and to hold space for women like me to come back to themselves through feeling and healing their pain. I am forever changed. whole, full of love, compassion, and pride for being my own advocate when everyone thought I was losing my shit, for seeking help when I knew I didn't have the tools to heal myself, and for taking the road less traveled to reach a new level of normal, a new standard of expectation that are only my own, and to reach a place where my well-being and mental health are supported, loved, appreciated, and nourished, instead of made to feel that they are wrong. I am free. Thank you.